12 air travel features from the golden age of flying. There was a time when flying wasn't just about getting from point A to point B. It was an event, an experience wrapped in style, grace, and just a little bit of glamour. People dressed up to board. Flight attendants wore crisp uniforms. Meals were served on real plates, and the hum of the engine somehow sounded peaceful. This was the golden age of air travel, from the 1950s to the early 1970s. Before tight security lines, crowded terminals, and tiny seats, today we're going back in time to remember 12 features of flying that have quietly vanished, but left behind a sky full of memories. So stow your tray table, sit back, and enjoy the flight. 1. In-flight champagne and full meals, served with real silverware. Back then, even economy class passengers were served full, hot meals, complete with appetizers, entrees, and dessert. On airlines like Pan Am, TWA, and East, you might have been offered roast chicken with vegetables, shrimp cocktail, or even filet mignon, all served with real glassware, cloth, napkins, and metal cutlery. And in first class, it felt more like a fine restaurant in the sky. Champagne flowed freely, and the menu changed depending on the route. There were no plastic trays, no rushed service, just a gentle smile, a neatly folded napkin, and a little moment of elegance at 30,000 feet. 2. Wide, spacious seats with legroom for days flying used to feel more like lounging in a living room chair than being packed into a row. Even in coach seats were wider, cushions were softer, and there was plenty of space between rows. You could stretch your legs, lean back without guilt, and not once bump elbows with your neighbor. In first class, the chairs were nearly as wide as sofas, with armrests as thick as your forearm. There were no seatback screens or USB ports, but what you had was room to breathe, and a sense of calm that made the whole flight feel slower, quieter, and more human. 3. Dress codes. When flying was a stylish affair once upon a time, you dressed up to fly. Men wore suits and ties, women wore dresses, heels, and pearls. Children were scrubbed clean, with polished shoes and little suitcases. Flying wasn't something you rushed through in sweat, it was something you prepared for. A special day, a moment that deserved your Sunday best. Airports felt like ballrooms, passengers smiled more, and somehow, the whole experience felt elevated, like you were part of something grand. Today, comfort reigns, but back then, travel was a celebration, and it showed. 4. Upper-deck lounges and spiral staircases on jumbo jets. When the Boeing 747 took to the skies in 1970, it didn't just change air travel, it redefined it. Suddenly, planes weren't just places to sit, they were places to walk, mingle, and even socialize. The upper deck of many early 747s featured cocktail lounges with curved couches, table lamps, and sometimes even piano music playing softly over the speakers. Passengers would climb a spiral staircase, greeted by plush carpeting and the soft clink of glasses, like stepping into a hotel bar in the clouds. No one rushed, no one scrolled on phones. People talked, read books, sipped scotch, and watched the clouds roll by. The lounges didn't last, replaced by more seats as airlines chased profits, but for a while, the sky really did feel like a luxury cruise. 5. Cockpit visits. Want to meet the pilot? There was a time, especially for children, when visiting the cockpit mid-flight was not only allowed, it was encouraged. A smiling flight attendant would lean down and say, "Would you like to meet the captain?" You'd walk to the front, heart pounding, and step into a quiet, glowing space filled with dials, switches, and the calm voices of real pilots guiding the plane through the sky. They'd give you a wingspin, show you the controls, and sometimes let you touch the yoke. Today, with strict security and locked doors, those moments are gone. But for those who remember, even as adults, that quiet visit was one of the most magical parts of flying. 6. In-flight pianos and live music. Yes, this actually happened. In the early days of wide-body jets, airlines like American and Continental experimented with live piano bars in the sky. Pan Am once had a lounge in the clouds, where cocktail pianists played softly as passengers sipped wine and chatted over candlelit tables. Of course, turbulence and logistics made this short, but for a while, you could fly coast to coast, with real music echoing through the cabin. It was elegance, it was excess, and it was unforgettable. 7. Colorful luggage tags and airline ribbons before barcodes and bag scans. Your suitcase told a story all its own. Airlines gave passengers bright, printed luggage tags, each one proudly showing off the logo. Pan Am, TWA, Eason, Braniff, and the destination in bold block letters. And for special occasions, you might get a tiny ribbon tied to your handle, or a paperboard first-class tag that fluttered in the airport breeze like a little badge of honor. Some people even collected them, tucking them into scrapbooks, souvenirs of not just the trip but the journey itself. Today's bag tags are printed, scanned, and forgotten. But back then, even your luggage felt like a passenger, dressed up and ready to fly. 8. Pre-flight lounge service, with real style before TSA lines and plastic bins. Airports felt like luxury hotels. If you were flying first class, or even business on some airlines, you'd de-relax in a spacious lounge with soft armchairs, real drinks, and fresh newspapers. Waitstaff in crisp uniforms offered coffee, cocktails, or even hors d'oeuvres. Music played softly. Conversation flowed. Time slowed down. Even if you weren't in first class, the departure gates themselves felt more refined, with wide windows, minimal noise, and a sense that everyone was going somewhere important. Now, airports are functional, rushed, loud, but back then, they were part of the magic. 9. Personalized in-flight service. With cakes, cards, and handwritten notes. It was unusual for a flight attendant to bring you a slice of cake on your birthday, or for a honeymooning couple to receive a small bottle of champagne and a handwritten card from the crew. Even children flying alone were treated like VIPs, with wings, pins, coloring books, and a crew member checking in every hour. Flight attendants knew your name. They remembered your drink. They crouched beside your seat and asked, "How's your flight so far?" And they truly meant it. Air travel wasn't just efficient. It was thoughtful. Today's service is fast, standardized, and stretched thin. But back then, those little gestures made every trip feel personal. 10. Printed menus and real table settings in the sky. During the golden age of flying, especially on long-haul or international routes, passengers were handed printed menus. Real, folded menus with multiple courses, wine pairings, and a small note from the chef. The meals themselves were served on china plates, with metal cutlery, glassware, and sometimes even linen tablecloths on the tray table. Each passenger was treated like a guest at a dinner party, not just someone eating out of a box. Today, you're lucky if you get a wrapped sandwich or a plastic fork that bends. But those menus, they felt like keepsakes, and many travelers brought them home, pressed between pages of a photo album, as if to say, "Look what flying used to be." 11. Open windows at the gate. And sometimes even mid-flight, believe it or not. Some older aircraft, especially small regional planes and propeller-driven classics, had windows that could open slightly while parked for ventilation, and in a few rare cases, even pilots opened cockpit windows on the ground for fresh air. You could hear the buzz of the tarmac, smell jet fuel and hot concrete, feel the realness of travel in the air. Airplanes weren't sealed off behind tinted glass and security lines. You saw the engines. You felt the air. You walked up the stairs and waved at someone watching from the terminal. It was all more human. 12. The gentle silence. No beeps, no screens, just the sky. There were no seat-back TVs, no glowing trays, no dinging every 5 minutes, just the soft hum of the engines, the occasional page from the flight deck, and the quiet rustle of newspapers and books. People talked, or they didn't. They watched the clouds. They looked out over endless land and sea and let their minds drift with the altitude. It was peaceful in a way modern flying just isn't, and for many who flew during that time, it wasn't the champagne or the staircase they remember most. It was the silence, the soft, skybound silence that made you feel small and safe and free, all at once. A sky that felt like home. Air travel today is fast. It's efficient. It's everywhere. But somewhere between boarding groups and baggage fees, we lost something. The wonder, the hush of being high above the world, wrapped in kindness. The golden age of flying wasn't perfect, but it was personal. It was tailored suits, warm smiles, and a window seat that came with a view and a sense of dignity. So, tell us, which of these air travel memories do you remember? Did you ever walk up a rolling staircase? Get a birthday card from a flight attendant? Do you still have a wings pin tucked away in a drawer somewhere? Share your stories in the comments. We'd love to hear them, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and fly with us again, as we remember the comfort, the care, and the little luxury that have quietly faded into history.